Discover the incredible nature of God, revealed truths for a transforming faith journey. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, faith hung in the air like a heavy fog, ensnaring the hearts of the Israelites in despair. For years they had languished under the oppressive yoke of Pharaoh, their cries for deliverance echoing like mournful winds through the barren lands of Egypt. Yet, little did they know that a humble shepherd in Midian would soon encounter the Creator in a profound manner that would forever alter the course of their history. Moses lived beneath the rugged peaks of Mount Horeb, tending the flocks of Jethro, his father-in-law. His days were marked by the weight of his past, memories of an Egyptian court flashing before him like an unwelcome dream. The cries of his people haunted him, a torment woven deep into his spirit. Little did he know that the moment of transformation loomed just beyond the horizon of his desolation. One fateful day, while leading the sheep near the base of the mountain, Moses glimpsed a flame flickering brilliantly amidst the dry scrub. Curiosity stirred within him, drawing him closer to a mystifying sight, a bush ablaze yet unconsumed by fire. As he approached, heart racing with a mix of wonder and trepidation, the voice of God resonated through the flames. "Moses! Moses!" The sheer power of the moment made Moses tremble. "Here I am," he replied, his voice a whisper amid the majesty of the divine presence. "Do not come any closer," God commanded, "take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." The weight of his holiness pressed upon Moses, stripping away his defenses. God unveiled his intentions to rescue the Israelites from Pharaoh's iron grip. "I am who I am," he proclaimed, a declaration that would transcend generations. Moses wrestled with doubt and fear, voicing his seemingly insurmountable insecurities. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt?" Yet God's assurances echoed like a promise of hope. "I will be with you," he affirmed, showering Moses with signs that would testify to God's authority, igniting a flicker of faith within Moses' hesitant heart. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. Days passed as Moses journeyed back toward Egypt, the familiar landscape awakening memories of his simpler past. But now, a divine purpose propelled him forward, an urgency that transformed each step into a sacred mission. Upon reaching his people, he was met with a place steeped in sorrow, their cries capturing the weight of hopelessness that wove through their labor. "Let my people go," he declared boldly before Pharaoh, his voice trembling yet potent with the weight of God's presence. Each confrontation deepened the tension as Pharaoh's cold dismissal echoed violently against Moses' resolve. With the plagues unleashed upon Egypt, the cries of sorrow intermingled with the burgeoning promise of freedom. Then came the harrowing night of the Passover, the prelude to liberation. The blood of the Lamb on the doorposts illuminated a glorious truth of divine grace, and as dawn approached, the cries of despair morphed into shouts of hope. Yet as the Israelites faced the formidable Red Sea with the Egyptian army bearing down, anticipation hung thick in the air. Moses raised his staff, his spirit caught in the tension between fear and faith. What would God do next? His heart raced, knowing that the greatest unveiling of God's promise lay just before them, a future waiting to unfold. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward." His words were a command issued with divine authority, stirring within the depths of Moses' soul. The Red Sea loomed before them, its waters broad and mighty, but the whispers of doubt began to fade. Moses turned to the people, their faces a tapestry of fear and unwavering hope. "Fear not. Stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today," he proclaimed, his voice ringing clear like a trumpet. God had not brought them this far to leave them in despair, his purpose shone brighter than the most daunting of obstacles. With obedience wavering against the tempest of uncertainty, Moses lifted his staff as God commanded, the symbol of divine power held high over the tumultuous waves. "Part the waters, O Lord!" he cried. And in that instant, God's presence manifested in a climactic swell of divine will. A wind arose, fierce and relentless, driving back the waters like a wall of protection, one to the right and another to the left. The expanse known as the Red Sea divided, unveiling a path of dry ground stretching as far as the eye could see. Fear gripped the hearts of the onlookers, an awe that transcended their comprehension, but resolute faith propelled them forward. The Israelites stepped into the midst of the sea, their feet meeting the softness of the ground, their hearts lifting with each stride into the unknown. As they crossed, the land beneath them trembled with the weight of their exodus, their cries now replaced with praises of faith. The sound of their footsteps harmonized with the rhythm of God's unfolding plan. But behind them, Pharaoh's army surged, darkened hearts blinded by rage and the desire to reclaim what had slipped from their grip. The clattering of chariots and the war cries of the Egyptians echoed in the valley, a reminder of the reality they had left behind. "Look!" one of the Israelites exclaimed, pointing back into the burgeoning chaos. The sun glinted off the polished metal of the chariots bearing down upon them. But Moses turned, unyielding, holding fast to the promise of deliverance. "Be still, for the Lord will fight for you," he reassured them, as God's command pulsed within his spirit. Once the last of the Israelites had crossed, the Lord instructed Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may come back upon the Egyptians." In obedience, Moses raised his staff once more, the waters anxious to reclaim their former dominion. As Moses' hand fell, the waters surged back, crashing violently upon Pharaoh and his armies, a fate sealed by the sovereign will of God. The earth trembled as waves collided, a wilderness of chariots sinking into the depths, a manifestation of judgment against oppression. The cries of the Egyptians turned to terror, swallowed by the roar of a power no man could withstand, and there upon the safe shore, the Israelites turned to witness as the last remnants of their captors disappeared beneath the foamy waves. A profound silence enveloped them, followed by a swell of worship. Miriam, the prophetess, took up a tambourine, leading the women in song, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider he has thrown into the sea." The earth was flooded with shouts of joy, yet deep within this jubilation lay the unspeakable mystery of God's overarching plan. The journey toward the promised land awaited them, and the unknown loomed as a new chapter in their history, for the wilderness lay ahead. What challenges would they face next? What other wonders awaited their awakening faith? The answers lay hidden within the contours of God's sovereign will, and unfolding destinies awaited their discovery. Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to the Lord, proclaiming his greatness with joy flowing from their lips. "I will sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, the horse and rider he has thrown into the sea." The air rang with the expressions of newfound freedom, reverberating through the wilderness as a testimony of God's might. Miriam's rhythm captivated the hearts of the women around her. She danced joyfully, tambourine in hand. "Sing to the Lord!" they echoed, their voices merging in harmonious praise. The exuberance of their deliverance spilled forth, a testimony that would be passed down through generations, a remembrance of the mighty hand of God. The Lord had turned their mourning into dancing, the despair of bondage into the promise of hope renewed. As the echoes of the song faded into the arid air, God spoke to Moses again. "If you will listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord, who heals you." Exodus 15 verse 26, the weight of his promise settled over them, a divine assurance that they were not alone. His presence would guide them in their journey, yet as they journeyed onward, the vast wilderness spread out before them, arid and demanding. Faced with uncertainty, the people's hearts began to waver, doubts sprouting like weeds in a fertile field. Days rolled into weeks, and soon the provisions began to dwindle. Hunger gnawed at their spirits, and fear crept in like a dark fog. "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt!" the Israelites began to lament. "At least there we had food and plenty." Their cries echoed through the encampment, revealing the fragility of their faith, the memories of bondage rising like specters in their minds. Yet in the midst of their grumbling, the Lord was preparing a revelation. He knew their needs before they even spoke. "Tell them," the Lord said to Moses, "at twilight, you will eat meat, and in the morning, you will be filled with bread." His voice, steady and sure, cut across the murmurings like a beacon in the night. "Then you will know that I am the Lord your God." Exodus 16 verse 12, even in their doubts, God's grace was extending toward them, a provision born of his unfailing love. As the sun set, a gentle breeze carried the faint smell of quail through the camp, and soon the ground was covered with these birds. The promise was fulfilled right before their eyes. In the morning light, a layer of dew shimmered across the barren ground, and when it evaporated, something like frost lay upon the earth, a fine flake-like substance, as white as coriander seed. "What is it?" they asked one another in wonder, for they had never seen anything like it. Moses declared, "It is the bread that the Lord has given you to eat." Exodus 16 verse 15, their eyes widened with awe. God had provided sustenance amid their uncertainties. As they collected the manna, the people of Israel began to understand the deeper truth that transcended their immediate desires. Each bite would remind them that their journey was not solely about a destination but about a relationship of trust and dependence on the Creator. Yet doubt would not easily relinquish its hold. Would they trust in God's provision tomorrow, or would they again turn back to longing for the past? The wilderness held many lessons, unfolding mysteries and divine strategies. What wonders awaited them on this path? Could this trial lead them to see the true nature of God, a shepherd who provides, guides, and nurtures? And thus, the journey continued, each step further into God's sovereign plan, where every need would reveal a truth more profound than they could imagine. For beyond the horizon lay the promised land, but the preparation of their hearts was paramount. What transformation awaited them in the wilderness? Only the Lord knew, and they would soon discover that his ways are higher than their ways, his thoughts beyond their thoughts. And so it was that the Israelites awoke each morning to the miraculous sight of manna covering the ground like a blanket of purity, white as snow and sweet as honey. They gathered it with wonder, filling their bowls as though collecting drops from the heavens themselves. Day by day, the Lord sustained them, yet the whispers of discomfort persisted. Some among them began to speak of the leeks and onions of Egypt, their voices soft but filled with longing. "We remember the food we had among the Egyptians, how we sat by the pots of meat," they cried. The memories of the familiar clung to them like shadows, clouds of doubt still looming over their hearts. Numbers 11:5, Moses felt the weight of their discontent pressing upon him, and he turned his face toward the Lord in prayer. "Why have you dealt with your servant in this way? What have I done to bear this burden?" He brought their complaints before God, his heart heavy with the responsibility of leading a fractious people. The Lord replied to Moses in a voice that reverberated with authority, "Gather 70 of the elders of Israel, and bring them to the tent of meeting, where I will take of the Spirit that is upon you and put the same upon them." Numbers 11:16, and it was so that God would share his Spirit with those chosen, empowering them to bear the burdens of the people, that they might lead with wisdom and strength. As Moses obeyed, he gathered the elders, and a holy transformation took place. The Spirit of the Lord rested upon them, and they prophesied, a sign of God's provision unfolding before the people's eyes. The sight stirred awe among the Israelites, but even within that wonder, seeds of discord sprouted anew. "Is the Lord among us or not?" they questioned, their faith wavering once more. A dark tumult brewed in their hearts, and as they lifted their voices in protest, they failed to see the living God at work in their midst. Then, as twilight approached, God fulfilled his promise, for quail descended upon the camp in clouds. They saw the birds fly low, and hopelessness turned to excitement as they captured them. Flesh to fill their bellies, but was it what they truly needed? In the midst of mirthful culling, God spoke through Moses solemnly, reminding them, "You shall eat, but you must not eat without heed. For if you indulge in this while your hearts remain hardened, a plague will come upon you." Numbers 11:20, the very air thickened with caution, a divine warning that bore the weight of consequence. Yet the joy of the meal ran unbridled through their hearts as they feasted upon his generous provision. As the Israelites sat around their fires, consumed by the flavors of meat, grief mingled with oblivion. They were fed, yet their hearts felt the gnawing emptiness of discontent. And as God watched, his spirit grieved, but amid their tumult, the Lord continued to teach them. Each provision, every trial, an invitation to deeper trust, a journey not just of the body through the desert sands, but of the soul toward the promised land, and so, in their very restlessness lay a divine truth: temptation can often masquerade as need. Would they learn that their fulfillment was not in quail and bread, but in the very presence of the God who walked with them? What depths of understanding awaited them as their faith matured, in their hearts, God's sovereign plan unfurled like the dawn, and a new understanding beckoned. For hidden within each challenge was a revelation, a promise that he, the eternal shepherd, would lead them not just to a land flowing with milk and honey, but to a place of unshakable faith. Would they dare to seek him anew in the wilderness, to embrace the God who provides and transcends every expectation? The journey was far from over, and the mysteries of God's love awaited, ready to unfold. And it came to pass, as the quail filled their tents and their hearts grew heavy with the burden of their desires, that the anger of the Lord was kindled against the people. The sweet aroma of roasted quail wafted up toward heaven, mingled with cries of dissatisfaction that echoed across the camp. Each bite taken, yet their hearts remained veiled in shadow, oblivious to the perilous path they trod. Behold, the Lord spoke in the stillness of the night, you have not sought the depth of my provision. You seek that which is fleeting while I offer you eternity. The camp fell silent as the weight of his words enveloped them, revealing the true nature of their hunger, one that could not be satisfied with flesh alone. Moses stood at the mouth of the tent, gazing upon the flickering flames of the fires where his people sat. Lord, he appealed, what more can I do? They are as innumerable as the stars, yet it is I who bears the weight of their desires. Heavy is the burden you have placed upon me. And God, in his boundless mercy, turned toward Moses and answered, I will give them what they seek, but I will also bring forth a lesson they must not forget. He instructed Moses to warn the people of his coming judgment, tell them they shall eat and consume their fill, but the very flesh that they crave shall become a source of bitterness to them. Numbers 11:21-23, as Moses conveyed these words, a murmur swept through the crowd. Confusion and unease knitted themselves into their hearts, for they had not recognized their own heedlessness. The Lord was forging a path for them, yet they maintained a grip on the chains of their past, refusing to grasp the freedom he offered. In the days that followed, their indulgence grew unchecked, and with it, the fulfillment of God's word quickened. A plague struck the camp as they munched on their desires, a tangible reminder of their rebellion. You wanted flesh. The Lord seemed to say. See what it brings forth. Numbers 11:33-34, as the cries of anguish filled the air, a small band gathered around Moses, their eyes filled with strain and sorrow. We have sinned, they confessed, for we have chosen the pleasures of this world over your ways. Pray for us, that we may be delivered from this judgment. And Moses, in his humility and profound grace, turned once more to God, interceding on behalf of a people who had strayed. O Lord, heal their hearts and lead them back to you. And for the sake of Moses, the Lord granted healing, though the scars of their choices would remain a reminder of the lessons learned in the wilderness. Thus, a peculiar transformation began among the people. They gathered again, whispering not of Egypt's fare, but recounting the wonders of God, the pillars of fire and cloud, the parting of the sea. They began to share their stories of faith and deliverance, for amidst trial flourished the seeds of gratitude, yet all the while, in the depths of their souls, the call remained unfulfilled. Were we not to journey to a land promised? They pondered. What do you desire of us, O Lord? The questions hung like dew in the early morning, each one a thread knotting them closer to his will. The winds shifted across the dunes, carrying with them the whisper of hope. In their struggle, a flicker of divine purpose began to rise, as if to say, what has been lost may yet be found. An exodus is more than a departure, it is a transformation, a call to uncover the treasures of trust. And so they looked forward to the horizon, their eyes seeking both a land flowing with milk and honey and the subtle truths hidden in the heart of their trials. For just beyond each challenge lay a revelation, a piece of his sovereign plan unfolding. Would they, once again, lean into his grace and embrace the journey ahead? The wilderness was but a backdrop for the greatest revelation yet to come, the unfathomable depths of his love and the promise of a covenant that could not be broken. What lay ahead remained veiled in mystery, yet the whispers of hope beckoned them onward into the arms of their God. And it came to pass that the people, having been brought low by the weight of their choices, sought out Moses once more. With their hearts trembling in the presence of the Almighty, they gathered around him, their faces drawn tight with anticipation and fear. "Why, O Moses," they cried, "did the Lord turn his face from us? We stood in our folly, feasting and forgetting the wonders he wrought among us. Pray, beseech him that we might know his will and walk in his ways." Moses, seeing their sincerity, lifted his eyes to heaven, for in his heart he bore both the love and the anguish of his people. "O Lord, hear their cries, and let not the hardness of their hearts be their song forever. Lead them out of their despair and into the light of your grace." And the Lord answered Moses, saying, "Gather the leaders of the tribes and bring them before me. For I will speak to them, that they may guide the people not by their cravings but by the righteousness of my commandments." Thus, Moses summoned the elders and leaders, who came trembling before the Lord, hearts pounding as they stood on sacred ground. The presence of the Lord descended like a mighty wind, and there was a thick cloud, sanctifying the moment. Behold, the voice of the Lord resounded, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you up from the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Listen to my commandments, and let my words dwell within you, for in them lies peace and satisfaction that the flesh cannot know." As the elders knelt in reverence, the Lord began to speak, revealing the statutes and the decrees that would bind the people in covenant, a way of life that bore fruit not of death but of the living hope he offered. "These are the words I set before you: love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. These commandments shall be upon your hearts, and you shall teach them diligently to your children." Deuteronomy 6 verses 5-7, the heavens echoed with the powerful truth of his commands, and the ground trembled under the weight of his glory. The elders, faces aglow, cried out, "We will obey. Your way is the way of life." The spirit of obedience took root among the people, but their hearts were still marred by the yearning for what was fleeting. They needed a deeper revelation of God, a sustaining anchor amidst the storms of their desires. So, in their fatigue, they gathered as one, bringing their fears and praises before God. As they prayed, "Show us your mercy, grant us your strength," the Lord responded softly, "For a long time, I have waited for you to return to me. A new beginning awaits those who seek me with all their hearts." Suddenly, there was a stirring in the desert, as the winds carried whispers of promise through the dry land. "What do you see?" the Lord asked through the rustle of the leaves. "A land, O God," they replied, "a land that flows with milk and honey, where your presence will dwell among us once more. For surely I will lead you," said the Lord, "but do not forget the lessons of the past. Each step you take toward the promise will be filled with trials, yet fear not, for I shall be with you." And as the people lifted their heads in renewed fervor, the heart of their journey began to shift. They understood that the wilderness was not just a path to traverse but a place to encounter the living God, where each challenge bore the weight of his purpose. Would they possess the faith to trust in his plan, to step boldly into the unknown under the cloud of his presence? The unfolding mystery awaited them, each promise a thread leading them deeper into his sovereign purpose, toward the revelation of his everlasting covenant. They waited in eager anticipation for what was yet to be revealed. And it came to pass in those days of mounting anticipation that Moses sought the face of the Lord once more. He removed himself from the throng of the people, descending into the solitude of the mountain where he had often met with God. As he climbed higher, the clouds enveloped him, and a radiant light surrounded the summit. "Speak, O Lord," Moses called into the stillness, "for your servant hears." The Lord replied, enveloping him in a thick darkness interspersed with flashes of brilliant light. "You shall teach my statutes unto the people, and through their obedience, they shall see my glory among them." Moses bowed low, for the weight of the words pressed upon him. "O Lord, grant me wisdom to discern your will, that I might lead these wayward hearts back unto you. Show me the meaning of the land that flows with milk and honey, the promise you hold before them." The Lord's voice resonated, "Fear not, for I have set before you the path of righteousness, and within it is the promise of redemption for my people. They shall face trials, but in their struggles, they shall find me. Teach them to lean not on their own understanding, but in all their ways to acknowledge me, and I will direct their paths. Proverbs 3 verses 5-6. As the Lord revealed his plans, Moses' heart swelled with both joy and trepidation. He returned to the camp, where the people awaited with bated breath. Hear, O Israel, he proclaimed, raising his arms wide, the Lord has spoken. He has given me his commandments and requirements that we might be a holy nation, distinct from the peoples. We are to be a light to the nations, and through our obedience, the world shall know him. The people listened intently, their hearts stirring. We will follow. We will do all that the Lord has commanded, they proclaimed, their voices united like a great wave sweeping through the dust-ridden plains, but even as their lips uttered obedience, doubt lay heavy in the hearts of many. From the gathered crowd arose from within the shadows one who would seek to divert the righteous way. Will we be capable? Asked a man whose eyes sparkled with skepticism. For our hands have known only slavery, and our hearts have wandered from his truth. A hush fell over the assembly, and the spirit of Moses took courage. The Lord is our strength. We need only to trust in his unfailing love and embrace the path he has set before us. When we are weak, he is strong. Remember the wonders you have seen. Hold fast to the truth of his power, for he does not forsake his people. Thus, he encouraged them to lift their eyes unto the hills, for their help would come from the Almighty. And while some rejoiced, others wrestled with fear and uncertainty. Yet the promise of God lingered, urging them to move forward. Now is not the time to falter, Moses declared. For a great test awaits you. Prepare yourselves, for the Lord shall show his wonders before you. From the mountain of affliction to the plains of promise, he will go before us. With renewed vigor, the people began their preparations, gathering provisions and setting their hearts toward the unknown. As they looked into the horizon of their journey, they were filled with wonder and apprehension, and lo, a great fire ignited in the skies as a visible guide. The presence of the Lord symbolized a covenant assurance. Follow the path I have laid, for beyond the wilderness comes a land adorned with blessings. There you shall find rest for your souls. So the journey commenced, but unbeknownst to them, a deeper encounter awaited beyond the next dune. For within the wilderness, through trials and tribulation, would rise a faith unshaken, a testimony of God's faithfulness that would echo through generations. Are you prepared, O people of Israel? The Lord's whisper resounded in their hearts. For the greater journey of transformation has only just begun. And it came to pass that the people set forth into the wilderness, their spirits a blend of hope and dread, their hearts beating in prayerful unison. The great cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night led them onward, a constant assurance of the Lord's presence. With every step, the weight of the manifold blessings ahead beckoned them, but there lay trials that loomed as shadows upon their path. They journeyed into a landscape both desolate and awe-inspiring, the vastness of the wilderness stretching as far as their eyes could see. The sun bore down, fierce and unyielding, as if testing their resolve. Why have we been brought into this barren expanse? Some whispered among themselves, their faith wavering like the winds that blew across the sandy dunes. In Egypt, we had the flesh pots, we had bread to eat. Now, our bellies are empty, they lamented, casting doubt upon the promise of the God who had freed them. Yet, despite the rising voices of murmuring, Moses gathered the people. Fear not, for the Lord is faithful. The same God who parted the waters and led us to freedom shall provide for our needs, he proclaimed with an unwavering voice. Do not forget the signs and wonders. He transformed our cries into songs, he will not abandon us now. As the evening fell, the hunger in their bellies sharpened, and the people grew discontent. But in the stillness, amidst their clamor, the Lord spoke to Moses, enveloping him once more in his divine splendor. I have heard the cries of my people, the Lord declared solemnly. I shall rain down bread from heaven for you, that you may know I am your provider. The very air filled with an aroma of promise as Moses relayed the command to the assembly. In the morning, when you see the dew upon the ground, behold, the Lord shall send you bread from heaven. Gather what you need for each day, and remember to keep the Sabbath holy, for on the seventh day you shall rest. And as the dawn broke upon the land, light cascaded over the horizon. The dew shimmered, and with it appeared white flakes upon the ground, a substance like coriander seed, as fine as frost. What is it? The people exclaimed. Manna. They called it, for they did not know what it was. Moses instructed them, each of you shall gather according to your needs. Let none of it remain until morning. Yet some, driven by greed, kept more than their portion, and that which was hoarded bred worms and stank. Let this serve as a lesson, Moses admonished. Trust in the provision of the Lord, for he knows our needs before we even ask. As the people tasted the bread of heaven, their hearts lightened with hope, and they began to sing praises, a melody echoing through the wilderness. In this barren land, we shall not lack. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. With each passing day, the Lord continued to strengthen their faith. The gathering of the manna became a sacred routine, a reminder of his unfailing provision. Yet as they moved deeper into the wilderness, another test loomed on the horizon, more daunting than their hunger and thirst. Are you prepared, O people of Israel? The Lord's whisper lingered anew upon the winds. For at the foot of Mount Sinai, I shall meet with you, and I will reveal my covenant to you, a holy nation, a chosen people. Thus, unknown to them, the stage was being set for an encounter that would forever change their identity and seal the fate of generations to come. What revelation awaits us on holy ground? And it came to pass on the sixth day, as the sun rose, the people rose early to gather the manna. Yet the Lord had instructed Moses, saying, On the sixth day, gather double the amount, for the Sabbath is a day of rest unto the Lord. Thus did the people obey the voice of the Lord, and great baskets were filled to the brim with the heavenly bread, but some among the congregation were stubborn and questioned the word of the Lord. Why should we gather extra? They muttered. We have been told to gather only what we need, and who knows if it will keep until morning. Yet, as they left the command of Moses unheeded, their baskets were filled with rot and stench. Moses, knowing the heart of the people, spoke with urgency, Do not test the Lord your God. He who provides will also sustain what he has given. There shall be none to go to waste if you trust in his word. And so, those who believed gathered the double portion. When the Sabbath dawned, there was no manna upon the ground, for the Lord had honored his covenant. As the day of rest unfolded, the stillness of the desert was as profound as the mighty works of God. The people sat beside their tents in holy silence, reflecting on the providence that had been poured out upon them like a river of grace. They reminisced about the night of their deliverance and how the Lord had led them with a mighty hand. The air thrummed with reverence, as they began to recount the marvelous deeds of their God, yet, as they rested, their stomachs still ached from the trials of their journey. Thus, on the very next day, they raised their voices in complaint again. What shall we drink, O Moses? For the water is bitter here in Meribah, and our souls are parched. Their cries pierced the heavens, and Moses felt the weight of their discontent press heavily upon him. He turned to the Lord with a heart burdened. What shall I do, Lord? The people are ready to stone me for their plight. The Lord, in his unending mercy, answered, Go before the people, and take with you the elders of Israel. Strike the rock at Horeb, and I shall cause water to flow forth. Obediently, Moses gathered the elders, and with a staff in hand, he struck the hard rock. Behold! The water gushed forth like a fountain, quenching their thirst and sustaining them in their wandering. The people drank deeply, their thirst now satisfied, but the doubts were planted deep within some hearts. The murmurs of Is the Lord among us or not? Began to echo like a distant storm. At that moment, the Lord spoke to Moses again, Behold, I will extend my covenant to this day. By the waters of Meribah, I show you that I am with you. I will perform mighty acts in your midst. With these words, Moses and his people understood that their trials were not without purpose. For each hardship was a test of faith, designed to shape them into a people set apart for God's own heart. As they journeyed onward, the wilderness became more than a desolation, it transformed into a classroom of divine revelation, where the nature of God was brought forth in manifold ways. And lo, the Lord proclaimed, "Prepare yourselves, O children of Israel, for I will unveil my law to you, a testament of my holiness, that you may walk in my ways." What divine instructions shall they receive from the Almighty? What transformation awaits as they stand upon holy ground before their God? And it came to pass that on the third day, as the morning sun crowned the peaks of Sinai, a divine cloud descended upon the mountain, thick with the presence of God. The people trembled in awe, for the Lord was preparing to speak once more. The air was charged with anticipation, and the heavens echoed with the sound of trumpets, resonating a call to gather. Moses ascended the mountain, shielded by the divine cloud, and there the Almighty met him, declaring, "I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Hear my commandments." And with thunderous voice, the Lord revealed his holy law, a foundation for their lives, a covenant that would set them apart as his chosen people. "Thou shalt have no other gods before me," the voice thundered, reverberating through the valleys. Each commandment issued forth with the weight of eternity, saturating the hearts of the people with a profound understanding of righteousness. They were to love, to honor, to worship the one who had delivered them. The people stood aghast, trembling in their tents, yet their hearts stirred with the realization that this was the way toward a promised life, an existence filled with divine favor. They cried out together in unity, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do." Their voices rose like incense before the Almighty, promising fealty to the one who had rescued them. Moses, bearing the tablets inscribed with the commandments, descended the mountain. His face glowed with the radiance of divine encounter, and the sight shattered the hearts of the people, a visible testament that God walked among them. "Fear not, but draw near, for the Lord is with you," he declared. The weight of the covenant transformed them, etching their identity in faith and obedience. Yet as days turned into weeks, the journey through the wilderness grew arduous. The people faced trials and tribulations. The bitter waters of Marah, the hunger for leeks and garlic, reminders of their past, threatened their resolve. They often found their minds drifting back to Egypt, where food was in abundance but shackles were many. But a deeper truth began to unfurl in their hearts, for they started to understand what true sustenance meant. With each challenge, their faith wavered, yet God remained steadfast in his promises. Amidst their trials, he provided the manna, day by day, revealing an ongoing rhythm of divine grace. Each morsel became a sacred reminder of his faithfulness. And then, in the lonely plains of Sinai, the Israelites learned to become a people not defined by mere survival, but by a covenantal relationship with Jehovah. As God's laws anchored their identity, they began to grasp the profound nature of his sovereignty. The tablet of the covenant was more than a set of rules, it encapsulated his heart and desire for a relationship with them. Then came the pivotal moment when the people gathered at the foot of Sinai, prepared to consecrate themselves before the Almighty. "Sanctify yourselves, and come before the Lord," Moses proclaimed. Their hearts pulsed with anticipation. They were to stand before the living God, an act steeped in both fear and reverence. As Moses ascended once more, the mountain erupted in fire and smoke, the power of God's presence shaking the ground beneath them. The law was not merely words, it was the heartbeat of God's desire for his treasured possession. And as they listened, the spirit of obedience took root, transforming fear into hope, and among the crowd, a weary heart wrestled still with the shadows of doubt. "Is this God truly for us?" they whispered, yet God spoke through his servant, "Fear not. This covenant bears your future. He desires to lead you into a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of abundance you cannot yet fathom." With each passing day in the wilderness, they learned together, growing in trust, sharing their burdens, and eagerly recounting the deeds of the Lord. Witnessing the deepening of their faith, they discovered that each challenge was an opportunity for their hearts to be refined, strengthened under the watchful eye of their heavenly Father. But amidst their journey, another threat emerged, not from without, but from within. They would need to grasp the fullness of their covenant, transforming hearts from doubt to gratitude, turning complaints into praises. God's warnings pierced through, "Do not be led astray by desires of the flesh. For I have set before you life and death, choose life that you may live." Then it came to pass that God formed the tabernacle, a dwelling place among his people. Within its walls resided the purest essence of his covenant, a visible sign of his unwavering commitment. Through their obedience, they would reflect his holiness to the world, drawing others to the wondrous love of their God. Oh, how miraculous he is! And so, the Israelites journeyed forward, their hearts now attuned to the divine cadence of faith, as they made their way through the wilderness with renewed spirits, empowered by grace, and filled with the promise of hope. And those who were once bound sinners became a holy nation, aching and striving toward a future promised, a land where the fullness of God's endeavors would be realized. He forged in them a community of faith that would echo through the ages, a testament of love linking their hearts to the eternal story of redemption. Thus, dear friends, we invite you, as you embark on your own journey of faith, to remember the steadfastness of the Lord, who guides you through the wilderness of your challenges. He provides, he protects, he transforms. Now is the moment. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss any powerful biblical stories that await you. Leave a like right now, for this is the moment to help spread biblical truth, so that other hearts might be touched by His grace. Comment below your own spiritual reflections. Your insight could inspire others on their journey of faith. Do not wait even one more second. Share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, let us bear witness to His unfailing love and glorious mission for hearts seeking Him.